Well, hello there, friends. Welcome to this stream. I apologize, I started a little bit late and I got doing other things and lost track of time, but here we are. Um, I want to say welcome. This is my first live stream on Kick. So I'm streaming to YouTube and to Kick. We're gonna try Kick out. Simply because I have a Twitch account, but I want to keep that more towards, like gaming things and stuff like that. So I created a Kick account and we'll see how that goes because I can stream to both. So that's great. So, how are you? How's your day been? Happy Thursday. Oh, I have itchy notes. Um, it's been a rather slow week in terms of work stuff. Um, I mean, that's usual this time of year. We don't really have a lot of hiring and things like that. Things kind of slow down as we get closer to the holidays, but guaranteed that's going to pick back up come January 1st. Though it is open enrollment. And if you work in HR, you know what a nightmare open enrollment can be. And yeah, so that is going to keep us busy. But seeing as I'm more on the compliance side rather than benefits side, we have a benefits team that usually takes care of that. And then, the rest of us will step in and help if it's needed. So but yeah, I was feeling kind of under the weather yesterday, so I took a shower and went to bed after Bible study rather than streaming. But here we are, and I'm kind of glad I did because there was some things that have been happening since Tuesday and the elections and all of that stuff that I kind of wanted to talk about. Um, oh, that's from Kick, a bot. Okay, cool. All right. So before we get started into this, we need to put up the disclaimer and remind everyone that the opinions expressed during this stream are my own and are shared for informational and discussion purposes only. So yeah, we had a blue wave on Tuesday, and we are seeing the results of the Republicans and how they are not handling that right now. Um, And it's really interesting to see the racism and the xenophobia that have popped out. I mean, it was happening before the election. Obviously, there was a lot of people and a lot of companies with big money that were, dumping money into campaigns against Mamdani in the hopes that it would prevent him from being elected. But you can see how unsuccessful that turned out to be because he is now the mayor-elect of New York City. So, yay, congratulations. I'm super, super happy about this. Um, but what's happening is there is a lot of hate coming his way. Um, and I mean that was to be expected, right? Because he has a lot of really, really great ideas to help the people of New York City. Um, and that is detrimental to the people with big money that work there because they might have to pay now 2% taxes instead of 1%. Oh no, what a big difference that's going to make. Um, and it's funny that people are trying to defend that by saying, "Oh, well, it's their hard-earned money. They shouldn't, they shouldn't have to give that to help people." How much money did they dump into campaigns to go against Mamdani? Much more than he is actually going to tax them, right? So in the end, they're losing out still because they dumped. Oh, I got fluffs going on here. Um, they're out that money anyway. And what did it go for? Absolutely nothing. Paying a higher tax rate in New York is going to benefit New York City. It's going to create more economic growth, which bottom line benefits them in the end. But they don't see it that way. They want to hoard their wealth. Um, and they don't have a problem with seeing people suffer. You know, Mamdani wants to make the city more affordable for the people that live there, right? And making the city more affordable will attract more people, which attracts more business and tourism, which again, overall benefits the New York economy. But MAGA, for some reason, sees this as a bad thing. I've seen socialism and communism thrown around a whole lot. But most MAGA don't understand what that means. They don't understand the actual definition of those words. They're just catchwords that they hear their orange turd in charge say. So they just repeat it. They just regurgitate what they've been told without actually finding out things for themselves. Um, I had this. Did I put more? Yeah, I did. Here we go. Oh, this is Trump. This is Trump having a bit of a meltdown. Trump wasn't on the ballot, and the shutdown were the two reasons that Republicans lost elections tonight. So that's saying a lot. Number one, Trump is stupid because why would he be on the ballot in New York? Is he saying that he would have to be on the ballot for anybody to win? No, that's not how elections work. And then that Republic and the shutdown. So that to me says that Republicans are to blame for the shutdown and that more and more people that are voting and getting out there are holding Republicans responsible for this shutdown and that the Democrats being blamed for this is not really being taken well. It's not being believed, I guess. The propaganda against Democrats is ridiculous. Um, and we keep seeing this, and it's almost every single day I see a post about this, about, Democrats are the ones that are responsible for the shutdown because they want $1.2 trillion dollars for illegal healthcare. Yet when you ask them to prove that this is the case, they can't because it's only the Republicans, Trump and MAGA, that are saying this. There's no actual documentation showing that this is what Democrats are going for. And Democrats keep saying, no, this is not what we're fighting for. We're fighting for health care because we don't want 20 million Americans to lose their health care. We don't want many more millions of Americans having to pay double, triple what their premiums are now, you know? So it's like the Republicans want Democrats to trade affordable health care for the American population, and they're holding SNAP benefits as ransom. They're holding vulnerable people as ransom to get the Democrats to do what they want. Now, another judge came out today and said that Trump has to um, use the contingency funds to fund SNAP. Um, I haven't seen a response from it yet, but that would be like the third judge that has come out said this was a federal judge that said that Trump has to use these contingency funds. And it's really frustrating because MAGA's like, well, this is not what these funds are for, and there's no money there. And okay, so this is specifically money that has been allocated by Congress for natural disasters and government shutdowns. This is an emergency. People are going hungry. That is an emergency. Those funds should be used for this particular instance. And if the money's not there, where did it go? Why is it not there? Like, there's a lot of questions here that MAGA just wants to talk about and just expects us to take without any explanation. So, okay, you don't have the contingency funds. What happened to them? You know? And it's just like Trump can find money for the things that he wants, like magically to pay ICE, but he can't find money to pay for people to eat, you know? And it's still this rhetoric of go out and get a job, go out and get a job. So you're expecting, the elderly to go out there and get a job, get two jobs, three jobs, just so they can afford to eat. You expect children to go out there and get jobs so that they can afford to eat. Or there's also this rhetoric that it's the millions of undocumented people that are collecting SNAP benefits. Okay, well, where's the proof of that? Any system, any socialized system that we have like this, there are going to be people that abuse it. That's just kind of what happens across the board. People are always going to try and take shortcuts. But when we look at the actual numbers of people that are abusing SNAP, it's less than 1%. So 99% of people that are on SNAP are using it legally, properly. Um, and the abuse and the fraud that they've found has mostly been like errors in paperwork or someone not declaring that the full income, or any myriad of reasons, but it's a very, very small number of people that have been found to abuse the system. Now the question I have is that when Donald Trump was inaugurated and he brought Elon Musk and Doge in, we were told that it was their job to find overspending, um, and fraud, and eliminate that from the government. Now they went ahead and they fired a lot of federal employees across the board from all kinds of different fields and departments. So if they had all these whiz kids in the system with access to all of our personal information, then why did they not find any fraud with Snap? Why weren't they looking at Snap? If MAGA's sitting here claiming that there's so many people that are defrauding the SNAP system, that there's undocumented people or people that are just sitting around being lazy and not working, then why wasn't Doge focusing on things like that to cut back spending instead of just firing the federal employees that were overseeing Elon's company? Because if you go into a deep dive and you look at, and I saw this really interesting video on TikTok that kind of tipped me off to this because I didn't know. But Neuralink is an Elon Musk company. And they last year tried to start human trials for their brain chip. They were denied the first time. The second time they got to go through. Uh, and there was some questions brought up with the animal trials that Elon had done prior to doing the human trials of these brain chips. And there was a lot of questions about the cruelty and the things that happened to these animals while they were testing. So when Elon Musk came into work and created Doge, or well, Donald Trump created Doge, but when he came into work with Doge, the people that were overseeing his company for their human trials magically got fired. Same with people that were overlooking his my phone, shush phone, overseeing his SpaceX. So it seems more like Elon came in to fire the people that were holding up regulations for his company rather than actually looking for real fraud. And nothing happened. Nothing happened. Why didn't Doge find any fraud with Snap? Because it's not there. That's why. It is such a small, minuscule amount that it wasn't worth finding, I guess. Not quite sure. But it's just, it's really, really frustrating because there's so many MAGA that just straight up lie. And the MAGA people, like the little regular blue collar Joes, some of them are coming around. I have, in the last week and a half or so, I have heard and seen a lot of MAGA folks just kind of opening their eyes and realizing what's happening and how much this bill, this CR bill, that is technically clean, um, is going to hurt them if it's continued, right? Um, they want to take away healthcare, Medicare, SNAP. They want to seriously make major cuts to SNAP. Um, and it's doing a lot of damage to the American people. And there are some MAGA that are just kind of coming around. Um, One of these lies in particular, just as an example for Mamdani, was that he was doing an interview and somebody asked him, um, so you're proposing free grocery stores, free buses, $30 minimum wage, all which sounds incredible. Um, but Mamdani never said free groceries. He said cheaper groceries, government run grocery stores, to make food more affordable for people. Because I don't know if you've been out grocery shopping recently, but it's getting rather expensive. Um, so he wants to combat that with government run grocery stores that will offer cheaper grocery options. Um, and a lot of people have asked him, how are you going to fund this? And he's got a simple solution to this. I've clearly said that I believe we should tax the 1% an additional 2%. That's New Yorkers making 1 million or more a year, and these things together would pay for the entirety of our economic agenda. So, this raising taxes on the people that are well off would help fund the people that don't make $1 million and that need things like SNAP, and stuff like that. And my last stream, I had talked about the benefit of a $30 minimum wage. And a lot of people will immediately jump on that and be like, no, because businesses will close. They can't afford to pay that, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, inflation is going to happen anyway. We're already seeing small businesses close because of Trump's tariffs and taxes and, things just not being affordable anymore. So, raising the minimum wage so people have more disposable income will actually stimulate the economy because people will have more money to spend in these small businesses, right? So they will be making more money, therefore be able to pay their employees more, right? And it's like that simple concept just kind of seems to go over MAGA's head. I don't know why they are so hardcore on licking the boots of the people that are making the most money that don't give a shit about them. We're seeing the billionaires and millionaires of America not giving a shit that Americans are going hungry because they don't give a shit about the little man. So why is MAGA sitting here defending them? Why is Joe Blow, who works full time and works 60 hours but still only makes $40,000 a year, simping for a millionaire who doesn't give a shit about him? I guess I don't really understand that. Maybe it's because there's this expectation that one day every American will be a millionaire or they're going to make it big and they don't want that to happen to them. But 99% of the time, most people like me and every other, you know, middle class person in America, we're not going to get rich. It's not going to happen. So why are you simping for the millionaires who don't blink an eye at the fact that, what if you don't eat? What if you can't afford your health care? What if you can't afford your medications? Oh, well, you're going to die. Big whoop. You can be replaced. That's just something that just kind of really boggles my mind, um, when it comes to like the little guy just kind of bootlicking there. Um, there was one other thing I wanted to look at. Come back up here. There we go. Oh, well, yeah, and this is kind of relevant. Like, since Trump's taken office, he's been in office 10 months now, and nearly 1 million Americans have been laid off, and that number is expected to go up by the end of the year. So, I mean, not only are we not making enough to afford our everyday lives, more and more and more of us are losing our jobs. Um, and it's like, what can you do? You can't win. Everything is becoming unaffordable. And people just aren't hiring the way that they used to because the jobs just aren't there, or companies just don't have the money to hire more people. I invest in the stock market and all of my stocks have not been green in probably weeks. I've been sitting here waiting to try and at least make my money back of what I've invested. But every single day, those numbers just keep going further and further and further down. And I used to have it set up where it would take out like $5 or $10 from my account when I get paid every Monday. And I would invest that into a stock so that I have a nice portfolio. And my husband and I both do that. And for a while, we were making, I mean, not fantastic money because obviously we don't have thousands upon thousands invested. But we looked at a way of like taking a small portion of our income, investing it, hoping to make it grow, um, for our own financial benefit, which is why anybody invests in the first place. But um, that just hasn't been working out because the stocks just keep diving. They really do. And the thing is that the things that I'm investing in are stocks that are supposed to be a little more reliable and not as volatile as some of the ones that may shoot up during the day and then come back down or whatever. I'm not looking to make a quick buck, but I would like to see my money work for me. And that's just not happening because the stock market in the just the US dollar in general has taken such a dive. So I've stopped, you know, putting more money into my investments, and hopefully at some point my stocks will come back up. And once that happens, I'm pulling my money out of the stock market because it's just not worth it. It's not doing well enough to keep it to justify keeping it there, really. Um, so there's that. Uh, let's see. Oh, yeah, Mike Johnson was ordered to swear in Arizona's newly elected Democrat, Adelita Galva. Um, this has been the longest. She's the longest politician that hasn't been sworn in yet. Um, and the judge apparently said something like, "What did he say? Uh, Calling Johnson's actions constitutionally indefensible, a phrase you almost never hear from the bench. By blocking her seat, Johnson left over 800,000 Arizonans without representation, and now the court has ordered that to end immediately." Um, he wanted to wait until he opened the government, but the reason why they're not opening the government is because they have enough votes to release the Epstein files. Um, and that's what I feel is the real reason why uh, he's not swearing her in and why the government is still shut down. Um, they don't want they don't want the Epstein list to come out, and they know as soon as the government opens, that's what's going to happen. It's also funny too because the Mike Johnson has come out and said because Trump is trying to say Republicans remove the filibuster, because if they do that, then that means Republicans only need 51 votes to pass the CR bill, um, rather than the full 60 votes. But Johnson has come out and said publicly that he doesn't want to do that because he knows that when Democrats come into power again, and it will happen, it's not like Republicans are going to be in power forever, but he knows that that's going to benefit Democrats in the future because that means that Republicans will have to concede when there's no filibuster for them to use to hold the Democrats or get in the way of the Democrats. And that's really frustrating and scary for them, especially after seeing what happened on Tuesday. In all the major elections that happened on Tuesday across the country, it was all blue. Pennsylvania had its own elections on Tuesday. We voted to retain 3 of our pro-choice Supreme Court seats. So that's really good. But seeing so much blue across the board kind of gets the message across that, Democrats aren't playing. And the American people are getting tired of Republicans working against the American people because that's basically what's happening. Now, in response to that, it's kind of hilarious because there are many, many MAGA now that are screaming that none of these elections were legal and that they were rigged. And it's like that narrative is not really working anymore, um, because MAGA has been screaming about um, election fraud since 2020. But the only time they claim election fraud is happening is when they lose. When they win, it's perfectly legitimate. But when they lose, the Democrats must have rigged the election. And people are just kind of seeing through that now. Because if you're saying that the elections were rigged, well, that would mean all elections are rigged. So why is it that MAGA thinks that only Democrat wins are rigged and Republican wins are not? Seems kind of fishy, don't you think? And not as many people are falling for that. And the fact that Donald Trump keeps going on and on about the 2020 election, that was 6 years ago. Get over it, dude. 2020 was 6 years ago. It's time to move on. You are the president right now. So what difference does it make? You at the time that the 2020 election happened, you had absolutely zero evidence. Still haven't presented any evidence. But even if you did, what difference would it make at this point? I just realized my caps lock was on. So it's just it's kind of frustrating, um, because MAGA keeps trying to use these talking points, and they're just failing harder and harder. Um, so uh, there was this other interesting post that I had put up on my YouTube, and Mike Johnson had posted on, I believe it was on X, and he said Democrats continue to reject the clean CR government funding bill, and the response to that from Andrew Bohannon was the CR you're referring to was loaded with policy riders. By congressional definition, that means it wasn't clean. As a constitutional lawyer, you should know that. And it's like Republicans just keep getting called out on their bullshit. And they just keep going. Like it's nothing. But they don't realize that people are waking up. People are waking up. Now, if we get back to Mamdani, this was an interesting point that I hadn't thought about because there is a lot of xenophobia because he's Muslim. And a lot of people think that because he's Muslim, he shouldn't hold an office in power because they don't want Sharia law. Well, what's the equivalent to Sharia law? Christian nationalism. I've seen people come out and say that they're proud to be a Christian nationalist. That's the equivalent to Sharia law. And it's equivalent in the sense that they are afraid of Sharia law being implemented because they don't want Muslims bringing Islam into politics and using it to write legislation that will restrict their freedoms. But what are Christians doing with their religion? The exact same thing. But they don't see the problem with that. You know, Christians are using their religion to come in and take away the right to abortion, take away the right to no fault divorce, take away trans rights. All of these things, they are using Christianity as justification for taking these rights away from people. But then they turn around and point the finger at Muslims because they're afraid of Muslims using Islam the same way that they're using Christianity. And they are coming down on Mamdani saying that he hates Jewish people and he's going to use this to punish Jewish people in New York. And it's really, really interesting that they are so upset about a Muslim mayor in New York, but they didn't have any problem with Muslims giving Trump a plane or Trump allowing them to come into the country and build an Air Force base, right? So why are you being a hypocrite with this? Because obviously you don't have a problem with Trump dealing with Muslims. So why is it such a bad thing for a Muslim to have uh, the mayoral seat in New York? Right? If you think that one man in New York, because he's a Muslim, is going to destroy that city, what do you think is going to happen with an Air Force base? Why are you okay with that? And what's hilarious is it's a lot of Christians that are afraid of this. A lot of Christians. Um, and when I was at Bible study yesterday, we had a very interesting conversation about Jesus and Jesus, the things that make Jesus angry. Um, and my pastor had said that there's not really a whole lot that would bring Jesus to anger because that wasn't his goal. But one of the things, yes, oh, thank you. I told you I was going to go get him. Um, but one of the things that Jesus really, really hates is hypocrites. So just keep that in mind when you're sitting here criticizing a Muslim mayor, but then you turn around and have no problem with your president taking a gift, a quite expensive gift, a bribe, more like it, from a Muslim country, and then allowing a Muslim country to come in and build an Air Force base on US soil. That is very literally the definition of being a hypocrite. So, I mean, something to think about, Christians. Something to think about. Um, there was one other point that I wanted to bring up. Where did I put it? Um, yeah, they're just some of the posts that I've seen are like just absolutely ridiculous. Like people blaming Mamdani for 9/11 when he was only what, like 9, 8, 9 years old at the time. Um, but then Trump pardoned the guy that facilitated money laundering to Al Qaeda, the people that literally um, crashed into the Twin Towers, you know? So it's like all of these, it just kind of further proves that MAGA are kind of blind sheep that Trump can kind of lead anywhere because they all very obviously do not think for themselves. They don't use their critical thinking skills. They don't look at the big picture or look at a situation and find out the answers for themselves. You know, when you sit here and do some digging and do some reading, you can find a lot of this information all by yourself and make those judgment calls. But Trump banks on the fact that these people don't think for themselves and they're just going to blindly believe whatever they want to believe. Hi, Gary. Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, so yeah, like they, it's really frustrating. And this is a lot of the reason why I don't try to engage with MAGA anymore for the most part. Um, because there's no point. There's no point. If someone is going to completely ignore logic and reason and facts, what's the point of having a discussion? Because you're not going to get through to them. They're not going to listen to you. And they just completely close themselves off because they don't want to hear the truth, because that's going to challenge their worldview. And they can't handle that. Right. And it makes it difficult for anyone to have anything to do with MAGA. And, you know, this is an example of a thread that I saw. Um, Someone had posted this, believe this was on Threads. Um, yeah, this might be on Threads or it might be Instagram. I can't remember. I don't really. Maybe. Yeah, it could be Threads. But anyway, regardless, doesn't matter what platform it's on. It's still a mega person. So this mega person posted, okay, so it turns out I'm stupid. Big surprise to everyone I know. But as my friend pointed out, Democrats are not holding out for healthcare for illegal aliens. True, we are not. There's no documentation proving that. They're holding out to continue the Affordable Care Act, which I am participating in at the moment. So get your shit together, Trump, because I did not vote for you for my health insurance to go up 400% starting in January. And more MAGA are going to see that because, again, we are in open enrollment season. So people are going to start getting their premium estimates for 2026. Some already have. I know in the next couple of days, my company is going to have that available for us to see. Um, and the 2026 numbers are really harsh. And healthcare is going to be a lot more expensive. And I think once MAGA finally starts getting those notices and realizes that their health insurance is also going to be up, that they are not going to be saved from this, um, I think more of them are going to start coming around to the fact that Democrats really are trying to fight for your health care, regardless of whether you're Republican or Democrat. Democrats are fighting for you to not have to pay 300% more than what you're paying now. And that's really vastly different from what MAGA is, because we can see that Donald Trump is very specifically trying to punish blue states and Democrats because they didn't support him. So he's singling out Democrats because he doesn't like them, where Democrats are still fighting for everybody. And it would not be received well if Democrats did the same to MAGA, you know. So, but yeah, there was another little graphic I had here. Where did it go? Oh, right. This is another thing that I wanted to talk about. So, Trump is claiming that he's claiming that Democrats are trying to pass the law to guarantee that illegal aliens get health care in emergency situations. And that was a law that was passed and signed by Reagan in 1986. So, like, but do they sit down and figure that out by themselves? No, it's easier for them to be mad and point the finger at Democrats and blame them than find out for their fucking selves. And that is really frustrating because it's like, how do you fight blatant propaganda that they just don't want to see, you know? How do you combat that? I don't know if you can. Um And it's like when you think about it, that law just basically means that regardless of your status, if you walk out into the street and get hit by a car, we're going to take you to the hospital and we're going to try and save your life because that's the right thing to do, regardless of whether you're a citizen, undocumented, or an immigrant. You know, you don't deserve to die in the street. Your status shouldn't be what determines whether someone saves your life. You're still a human being. But MAGA doesn't see it that way. They don't see, undocumented people as real human beings. It's easier to demonize them and hate them because then they can be distracted from all the things that and all the ways that Republicans are trying to hurt them, you know. So I it's I the elections on Tuesday and it being all blue really kind of brought some hope back that maybe the future is not as bleak as it seems to be. Um, because there was a while there where it felt like we were just on a downward spiral. And I think we still are on a downward spiral, but hopefully we can fix it. Hopefully we can bring enough Democrats in so that we can fix it and save it. Because under Biden, we were doing so much better financially. We really were. Inflation was on its way down. You know, there was if if Kamala had won, I mean, that would have given us the opportunity to possibly buy our house. But right now under Trump, there's no way that's going to happen. There's no way we're going to be able to afford that if we are ever going to be able to afford that. Um, but Kamala at least had a plan that might have been able to make that possible. And now that's just gone to the wind. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people um, out there that are kind of in the same boat. I was watching Vosh the other day and he was looking at some numbers, and the average home buyer, when they buy their first home, the median age is 40 years old. If you go back 40 years to see what the median age was for buying a home, much, much lower. Actually, let's take a look and see. Median age home buyer. And let's do 1975 just for the hell of it. So the median age for a first-time home buyer in 1979 was 29 years old. Yep. Today, the median age for first-time home buyers has risen to 38 years old. This increase is attributed to factors like rising home prices, which have made home ownership more difficult for younger generations. Yeah, there's a lot of young people that will just never be able to buy their own home because it's too unaffordable and it'll never happen. Um, and the economy going the way it is, that's just going to get worse because more people now are, excuse me, sorry, I was sitting on my leg. I had to fix it. More people are now out of work. They're not making as much money. Um, we just got a notice that our electricity bill in Pennsylvania across the state, um, our electricity bill is going to be going up by $179 on average. So energy prices are going through the roof. And it's like, how are people supposed to afford to live? This is why SNAP is so important, because with the rest of life so expensive, some people do need help. I am fortunate enough to be in a position where both me and my husband are working at decent enough jobs that we don't need assistance. But if things keep going the way that they are, I don't know if it's gonna stay that way. And that's gonna put us in a really bad spot because with me being an immigrant, I don't qualify for any type of assistance yet. I have to be a legal immigrant in this country for 5 years before I can even think about applying for any type of government benefit. So I am very fortunate to be in the position that I am right now where I don't need it, but I can't tell you in the future if that will change or not, you know? And I feel really, really bad for the people out there that are just not able to do it. There was one thing that I wanted to do for this month, and I haven't decided if I'm gonna film it or not, um, but I might. Um, but Aldi and Walmart have this thing where you can buy an entire Thanksgiving meal that would feed 10 people for $40. I now I just said that my husband and I are in a position where we don't need assistance, which is true, but we are still living pretty much paycheck to paycheck. There is not a lot of wiggle room there. But I am fortunate enough that I don't need help or that we don't need help. But I do want to try and help someone, so I am going to be going out and purchasing the items on the Aldi list for, the Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm gonna give that away to someone in the community that, has been denied SNAP benefits. Um, you know, I wish that I had the means to do more. I wish I had the resources to help more people. Um, and I am trying to, through my church, do some things to help people that are in a bad situation right now. So I am doing what I can, what is within my realm of capabilities to try and help other people. And I encourage you, if you're watching this and you are in a position to help as well, um, these are people in our communities. These are people that these are our neighbors, our friends, our family. And we as a community, especially a small community like this, we need to help each other. That's the whole idea of being a community, right? We're all not our own individual islands who do everything on our own. We need to come together and support and help each other. And that's what I wanna do, and that's one of the reasons why I love living in a small town so much is because I like being part of that community. But being part of a community also comes with the responsibility to help that and maintain that community, and that's includes the people that are in it. So, I encourage you to donate to your food banks, um, give money where you can, give food where you can. Let's lift each other up. Let's make sure that our people aren't going hungry because obviously MAGA doesn't give a shit about them. But we do. We do. So yeah, I want to thank everybody for watching. I appreciate you being here. Um I will be back tomorrow with another topic. I don't know what that will be yet, but I'm filled with a little bit of hope now that we have the blue wave, and hopefully this is a foreshadowing to what's going to happen at midterms next year. So fingers crossed that things keep going positively, and hopefully at some point in the near future we're going to kick this president out and put somebody in that's actually going to want to see the American people prosper and be healthy and happy and living the American dream. The American dream is not just for the 1%, by the way. It's not. So, anyway, thank you for watching. I love you all, and I will talk to you soon. Make good choices.